Hello viewers, this is my 1977 Fiat 124 Spider, and if you haven't been following along, I've recently been able to get it started and actually running on its own for the first time in like 25 years, almost 25 years. And so that's got me pretty excited about the upcoming first drive. But now that it's actually moving, we have to work on making it stop. And that's what's going to be in store for today. I've got all new brake rotors, all new brake pads. I've got brake caliber rebuild kits. I have a new brake master cylinder. So we're gonna do all that coming up, and if we've got a little time, we're gonna troubleshoot the low compression that we were finding in cylinder number 3. That was in the last episode, so be sure to check that out. Let's get started. Okay, just a quick status update on the brake situation. Everything came off fairly easily. It's a good time now just to look at the situation going on under here. And everything looks, decent. Obviously quite a bit of rust. Most of all the rubber's gone. Tie rod and bushing here isn't terrible. One back farther isn't in great shape. The sway bar bushing is almost completely gone. Some more of the control arm bushings in the back here. Seen better days. Ball joint rubber is still intact, but it needs to be replaced at some point. That's going to be for another day. Right now I just wanted to get it to stop. The bearings turn freely, no excessive play, so I'm just going to let those go. I've got new rotors, new pads ready to go on. Very surprised to see the amount of wear left on these old pads. They're practically brand new, which is a good sign that this car was obviously maintained before it was parked. It doesn't even appear that they got to drive on these pads except maybe for a few miles. So that's okay. We'll get those in the trash. We'll get some new ones put on. The other side is essentially the same, and I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. So we'll get these all put back together. We'll do the rears. We'll get the master cylinder put in. We'll get the lines bled, and we'll see if it stops. Okay, quick update on the brake situation. It's turned into like a major pain in the ass, which I guess isn't a big surprise considering the thing sat and rotted for such a long time. I was hoping to be able to just to kind of change the brakes, change the rotors, rebuild calipers, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. Every single one of the calipers was frozen, the bleeder screw ripped off, or the brake line was seized and couldn't be removed. So I pulled everything. I ended up pulling all the brake lines out. I pulled off the master cylinder. The brake booster was broken, and we're starting to get things moving. Unfortunately, I placed an order for a bunch of parts from Auto Recombi in Texas, and it happened to be right when that winter storm went through, and so everything's been delayed. I'm still waiting on parts before we can finish. But in the meantime, let me just show you some of the brake carnage that we're dealing with here. So I've kind of piled up in just a junk pile here, and you can see a lot of the brake lines have all been just completely rusted. The rubber lines aren't in bad shape, but honestly wouldn't feel comfortable keeping these on. The calipers looked halfway decent from the outside, but just no matter what I did, I couldn't get the cylinder to come loose. So heck, they're pretty cheap, so I just decided to get a new one. The rear ones, same deal. You can see how the situation is not much better. The brake compensator on the back, I mean, just completely full of goo. Unbelievable. And the brake lines coming out of that are just something else right there. So all that's got to go. You can see the master cylinder isn't in terrible shape, but this piece is broken off inside. I got one nut off, but this nut just spins and spins, so that's another fairly cheap part. So we got a new one for that. You know, the brake rotors completely rusty. Anyway, it's a big mess. I pulled absolutely everything out, all the way from the master cylinder all the way back to the rear brakes. It's all going to be replaced. I got new lines coming, new calipers, new brake rotors, new brake pads, the whole deal. So next step, let's get it all put back on. As you can see here, I've spent quite a bit of time on the grinding wheel with the wire brush, trying to save some of these original pieces. Probably should just go ahead and buy these, but they're about $6 a piece, and there's 2 per wheel. Anyway, it adds up a little bit. I thought I'd maybe just clean them up and they'll still work just fine. You can see the lock for the banjo bolt on the front calipers, completely rusty, cleans up pretty nice. Some of the clips for the calipers I've been cleaning up. You can see I'm gonna go through and do the brake hose clips too, just to knock off a bunch of the rust, but pretty impressed with how well these have cleaned up. Anyway, back to the grind. Okay, that's just about gonna do it for this video. I got the brakes completely disassembled from head to toe. I've got the caliper brackets cleaned up, put back on with new rotors, new pads, all preloaded, just now waiting for the calipers and the rest of the parts. So the next video, you can look forward to having the brakes finished up. And in the meantime, I was able to pull off the valve cover gaskets, and I determined that the intake valve for cylinder number 3 is indeed stuck and or bent. We'll take a look at that real quick. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, here we go. You can see cylinder 1, 2, 3, and there's enough gap in here between the tappet and the bottom lobe of the camshaft to fit a whole screwdriver in. So the valve does move down, but it just doesn't come back up all the way. So something's gone awry down in here, and I think the only way to fix it is to take this off. So next video, finish the brakes, or we'll see about pulling this head off, and we'll look forward to it. We'll see you then.